been puzzling all night. Between that and Discord Photo Club and the Discord Secret Santa gift exchange, I have been very occupied. Last Sunday of the project, which is interesting because next Sunday we're going back to hybrid services, which are much more involved, obviously, because there are people in the building besides us. And I just think back to March. I think back to like July, August. The times that things were different. Like each stage of change since the pandemic started, with our setup and the troubles that we've had, the triumphs that we've had. And we're not closing the project on a perfect note. We're closing the project on just a new chapter. I've thought a lot about the direction that my life, specifically on this topic of ministry and service, how my life has shifted since this started. I think, and I know I've talked about this here and there over the years, but I think in the past 4 years, I spent a lot of time in the first half just trying to find a space to fit and a purpose in that space. When it came to a religious community, as I found myself shifting how I viewed theology and the purpose for theology. And I wouldn't say by any stretch of the imagination that I'm currently in a church that fully embodies my theology, because it is difficult to find a religious space that completely matches what you believe. That's part of the beauty of growing and changing and learning from each other. But I would say that over the course of the past 2 years, I finally settled into a routine and a space and a family that's not just safe, it's also nurturing, and has helped me to find my footing. I went from having mostly friends who shared at least part of my religious belief system to most of my friends not sharing it. And so, post majority of friends thinking similarly to me, I find myself in the more private stage of religion that I knew I would eventually get to anyway, because I've always kind of viewed that as more of a private thing. But what I don't consider to be private, what I consider to be something that I want to be very public, is how much and how deeply I care for people. And that because I also believe in a divine being who has more care for people than I can comprehend, I have to acknowledge that when I care for people as a reason why I care for people the way that I do. And that is why I stay in the church. That is why, regardless of the number of times the church has failed me as a whole, I will stick with my community. And I will look for ways to help my community stay strong and grow and improve and learn. That doesn't change. It's not going to change. That's who I am. This is who I am. The church is a part of me. And in the past year, I've had conversations with people who suggested I leave based on difficulties with the LGBTQ community and the church. And while it's still a very long process towards being in a good place, to quote Colony House, caught me by surprise. Again. In moments when I haven't expected to find belonging in the church, that is when something has popped up. That made me feel safe enough to stay. And I didn't always feel that way. I certainly didn't when I started this. And I think about the mentors and the youth leaders who talked about the statistics of youth that leave the church. And I look at the type of church that they're talking about and I said, yeah, we all left when we saw what it did. But some of us want it to be better, and some of us found a better version of it that we can help lead into the forefront of the very model of religion. We're not just going to stand back and wait. We're just going to do it. And that is not what I expected 4 years ago. I expected myself to find my way out. So here we are. I don't expect people to agree with me. I don't expect people to change their minds. But I will say, I've found where I am supposed to be. I've found a purpose. And I've found a direction for the passion that I've felt for a group of people my entire life. And I'm in a space where my presence and my abilities are both wanted and needed, and I will stay. And that's that. We're at the tail end. Three days. Just had to address that before the end.